in between them will be caught, which is what should not be encouraged. You see. So we have the trawlers, we have the pair seiners. The pair seiners also have a different type of net for fishing. You have the gill netters and the trap setters, long liners, and then the mother fish, the mother ships. The mother ships usually are, they don't do fishing as such. They just go to stand somewhere and wait for these ones to catch the fish and bring it. Then they take care of it by, some of them have even factories on them. So they carry everything on the ship. But others, they just do the packaging into the boxes that you see the ships bring here. The mother ships have those facilities for sorting the fish out and putting them in cartons for delivery. So this will be a typical mothership factory. Which you go and stand there. They are much, much bigger than the ships, the smaller trawling ships. So you have a trawler, you have a pair seiner. This is a pair seiner, the small one here. It's a pair seiner, that would be a trawler. And you have the troll, the long liners, as those ones. What they do is, you see some hooks. They catch. They all aim. They are aimed at particular types of fishes that they are able to catch. Okay. So the trolling ones, they have lines like that, and then they catch. They have hooks on them, and they are in the water on each side. And as they go, they are able to catch the fish. Then they will draw in the line, remove it, and put the baits in and put them back. Then you have the gill netters, like here. Okay. The gill netters will be here. That's how they look like. In essence, but they will put them here. When you go to the right, these types of ships, you see a lot of them in the China areas, the South China Seas, they call it. Then you have the working vessels. You have tugs, dredgers, cable layers, research vessels, training vessels, and then fire tenders, icebreakers. Okay. So this is a fire tender. The fire tenders, they work with the ports. So when there's a fire on board any ship, they can come and help quench the fire, okay, put out the fire. So they have everything like the fire tenders on shore, but they operate from the ship. Their ships actually operating within the port. Then you have the harbour tug. The tugs, as I said, they assist the vessels. They are very powerful. You see them like that. They have very powerful engines, because when you see them, they will be turning these huge oil tankers, the mammoth oil tankers, VLCCs, ULCCs, ultra large crude carriers. They are very, very big. So these small vessels can attend to them. Of course, when they are attending to, for example, this tug, if they want to attend to an oil tanker which is laden, you need about 6 of them, okay, to turn the oil tanker around. So the oil tanker cannot do that because of her length. She cannot do that in that constricted space, just like you can't get an articulator truck turning here easily. Right? With them, it's even worse when they are in the port, because the ports cannot be built so huge as to accommodate their turning circles within that tight space. So you have the tugs, the harbour tugs. We differentiate between the harbour tugs and the salvage tugs. The salvage tugs go to the high seas. If a ship is broken down, it is a salvage tug that will go and help bring her in. They cannot use the harbour tug. The harbour tug is not powerful enough for that. You see here you have 2 tugs attending to this rural vessel here. The red one, there's a black one at the back there. But for the ULCCs, you can have as many as 6 of them trying to turn her. And you should see how they'll be struggling to turn her. Even the 6 of them, they can hardly get her to move that easily. It's not easy at all. Okay. Then you have the dredger. The dredgers, we need the dredgers because siltation of the ports take place siltation of the water courses take place, and therefore you need the dredgers to remove the sedimentation. You know, a lot of times these days with the rains, the way the rains are, see how they are clearing the gutters. Okay? It is a form of dredging. At sea we call it dredging, but here they are just clearing the silt that is in the gutters. So at sea we have a lot of these to do that in the ports and in the water courseways. A typical example, when you go to a place like the Cameroon, that is on the, when you are going to Douala, you find one of these always stationed there, because they somehow they are that river is very powerful, and it brings a lot of silt from the sea, from the hinterland. So their channel and the port is upriver. It's not by the coastline like we have here. It's up, and so they always have to be dredging continuously. Otherwise, the ships cannot go. You go and sit down on the beach in the river. You have dredgers. Then we have icebreakers. Icebreakers are specially built vessels to help clear the ice off the water surface in the higher latitudes, especially in places like Russia. About 3/4 of the year, the land is under ice, and the rivers, the tops of all the rivers are frozen, but you still have water underneath. So what they do is to get this type of ship to break the ice, which is not too great. In some places, if there's considerable amount of water, it will not be, the depth of ice will not be too much. So this icebreaker, what they do, the way they operate is they would ask the ships, about, let's say, up to about 8 ships, they'll be waiting. Then the icebreaker will lead and break. So they will all come in a convoy, one following the others. So the icebreaker will go ahead of them and break and clear the ice, so that the other ships can pass through the clear water. If the other ships try to do it, they can get, we call it beset. They can get frozen within the ice, we can crush it and ruin the ship. Yes. So they always have to have this icebreaker go ahead of them, break the ice and clear it. You see it ordinary like that, but it's specially built to be able to do that. So that is how they operate, the icebreaker. Then the cable layers also, you know, all this internet you are enjoying and so on, is as a result of cables on the seabed. Okay. And the cable layers do that, lay the cables on the seabed for us to be able to enjoy it. If they were to use satellite, you know, when you are making satellite calls, it's very difficult. And you see sometimes they are making satellite connections, and somebody is talking, you see their images changing and so on. Satellite is not very stable, but the cables, the transmission going through the cables in the water is what enables us to enjoy the communication on phones. It is the work of the cable layers. They lay the cables and also service them from time to time. Then we have the research vessel. This vessel is a very interesting vessel. I found it, but now they are not using it anymore because they said it was too expensive to run. It's a ship. It can float flat like a ship, and then when they want to do research and gather information from the seabed or subsurface of the water, deeper down in the water, then she flips around. So they used to call it flip. So even though she's like this, she can turn like this also, and then dip the research materials into the water, collect all the data, and then come back again. But they said it was too expensive to run, so they've stopped it. It was owned by the US, of course. So the research, you have a research vessel. So they had accommodation and also the structure such a way that if it is flipped like this, they can still cook and eat. When she comes back, they can still do the same thing. They are ordinary. And this is a training vessel. This is actually a naval training vessel, but they use it to train the officers on how to do combat and so on. In the merchant ship, we also have training vessels where we send cadets or the recruits new people in to train them on the ordinary working of the ship. Oftentimes some companies, it's not all companies, some companies they have a dedicated ship. The Black Star Line, when it was up and running, had a dedicated training vessel, the Nakwa River, which had enough beds to accommodate 24 cadets, and they trained them for the other ships. You see, when you have them like that, what happens is that with a training vessel, you have virtually no sailors. So just one or two of them to do the training. So every work on board the training vessel is done by the would-be officers. So by the time they've gone through that meal, then you see that they are well grounded because they had to do all that work themselves. So the concept of training vessels is important. So the big ships, they still maintain some of them, I mean the merchant ships. But as for the navies, they always have a training vessel, the Royal Navy.